get it. Let's get it. I'm a happily single. I'm a living single ambassador. Fulfilling women living single. Find the people.
Hey, hi, hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Conversations with Carla. I am so glad that you are tuning in. Feel free to share it with someone that you know who is single. So hey Candace, thank you for tuning in. We're gonna have an awesome conversation today with Conversations with Carla. But not, my name is Carla, and I am your relationship doula, helping women and men bravely birth peace in the pieces of their lives. And we're going to have a conversation today with Tabitha Lewis. Hi, Aura. And so we are um, talking to Tabitha Lewis, and I'm going to let her introduce herself in a little bit. But we're talking about living single, the gift that keeps on giving. Let's see what she has to say. So, Tabitha, tell us who you are. Tell us, please introduce yourself.
My name is Tabitha Lewis. I live in Boston. I am a living single ambassador, happily living single ambassador. I enjoy people and I enjoy helping people find happiness within their singleness. I am a dentist, and I enjoy making people smile. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And I have two sisters. I'm the middle child out of three girls.
Yes, so Tabitha, living single, when you came up with that idea, because we were talking about it, she and I have different conversations all the time. And one of the conversations that I wanted us to talk about is that question that you've heard your other peers say, and you have said, well, you can tell them that question that people like to ask single people, especially in the church. Uh, why you not married? Can I find this guy for you? Do you get that a lot? Do your peers get that a lot?
It's funny. A lot is an understatement. I think it is definitely a topic that comes up a lot, and I feel like that's part of why I was like, I'm so excited about being able to share about the gift of singleness, because a lot of times it's kind of portrayed or people talk about it as if it's some type of, something not to be happy about,
Yeah, be happy. You must be miserable. You must have a partner. You must have a man. You
yes.
Sure you don't need a...
Yes, and it's frustrating because, well, I'm thankful, one, for my family, because I can say my aunts, my uncles, cousins, my parents, that's not something within my home, my community, my close-knit home where I'm asked about it. It's not, there's no pressure within the home. So I'm thankful for that. I think, like you said, it's mostly when I'm interacting with people of the church. There's this, the conversation my Carla is referring to is, I was out at a pantry, I go to this pantry twice a week. I love going, and
because you're volunteering at the pantry, correct?
Yeah, I'm volunteering at a pantry. We're helping food insecure homes right now by, giving them fresh produce. So I go there, and it's not at my church, but my friend, he kind of runs it. And so I go and help him with it. And the pastor of that church, I love him dearly. And, he kind of was like, yeah, Tabitha, we gotta get you a man, there's happiness on the other side. And I kind of composed myself, because I didn't want to respond in an attack. And I didn't understand why you had to kind of poop on singleness in order to kind of make marriage kind of the it. But I composed myself. I let him rant. I realized that maybe for married men, it's hard to have a conversation with single women without bringing it up. That's kind of what I've kind of told myself, to kind of not get frustrated. Like, maybe it's hard to kind of have a conversation with somebody that's not married.
Right. So, right. Any married men out there, is it a problem to have a single female friend? I guess they feel more secure, possibly, if you were in a relationship, so they don't feel as though, I don't know what it is, but
when you find out, let me know.
Okay.
And so here I am at this pantry, serving the community. I've gone through 8+ years of school. I'm a professional, I'm doing all these great things within the community at work. And here he is saying that I have kind of failed this test of being chosen or cared, or like having a family in that sense. And, it took me to really, be motivated to kind of dispel this myth that singleness is not a place where you can be happy and fulfilled and do what you are, destined to do, and that, whether it be a season or a lifetime. So yeah,
Well, I like that. Your friend Tariana says, "Hey Tab, you look beautiful, lovely. Thank you for the invite."
okay, sorry.
That's right. She can't see the Facebook comments because she's not on Facebook. So that's another myth. They think that all people are on social media, and you're not on social media.
Well, that social media is a great tool. I think that after I graduated, I kind of wanted to kind of unplug and kind of just focus on some other things. So it kind of just happened.
Okay.
Accidentally. So yes. So that's your first question. I do get the question a lot. And so to all my single ladies, the widows, the single moms, the divorcees, I am apologizing on their behalf for ever making it feel like you are missing out on something, because I'm here to tell you you're not. Okay.
Well, Sade says, "You're too beautiful. I wouldn't want you around my man." So she's family, y'all.
Thank you, Jeree. Compliments come. I love when you give me a compliment. I love it. Thank you, Jeree.
So, okay, so you get that. And so wonderful. You were very composed yourself so that you're not trying to
I got
attack.
in the car and I released it with a good friend of mine,
okay.
like my frustration. Yeah.
Oh, but I liked how you answered that, Pastor, because you're not trying to down one. So one of the things is, why do you have to down one to uplift the other? So why does marriage have to be better than singlehood? And why is singlehood better than marriage? It's like, why can't you enjoy where you're being? And that's the journey you're on and wanted to be that ambassador.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so tell me then some of the other things that you wanted to share, because I know initially we were talking about what we're going to share and talk about. He's like, well, I have tips and all these other things, because I said, people think that you're just sitting around there twiddling your thumbs waiting for a man. But one of the conversations that I liked that we had some time ago, you talked about, you were like, all these people who did these great things and they were single. And if they weren't single, they wouldn't have been able to put in the time and effort to do these things that were just so life-changing. So share that conversation.
I love that you brought that up, because after having that conversation, I kind of dug a little deeper to kind of research, and it was very hard, like trying to figure out where there would be a database or a list of single people who are influential, because it's not something you kind of, see publicized. The media, social media, marriage, relationships, that's really what you see.
Right.
But I'm going to start with, obviously, my favorite single person in the whole wide world, and that is Dr. Letitia Henry. This lady has started her own.
Go right ahead.
She started her own company called the Prevention Health Specialist. But before that, she's gone through so much schooling. She has so many mentees and people that she pours into. She happens to be my aunt, and I've reaped the benefits of her being single all these years. And so she's definitely at the top. And then I have some awesome single friends. So all of my singles out there who are trying to navigate living happily single, find some singles who are happy and single. Tariana is definitely one of my happily single friends, Ayana Jordan. There's so many that
yes, because Ayana is on too. She says, "Hey Tab, speak the truth, girl."
So like having a network of like singles who are really happy really will help. And obviously you're gonna have some friends who are trying to figure out how to navigate singleness when they want to really be married, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But yeah, Dr. Henry, my aunt. Byron Stevenson, I don't know if anybody saw the movie Just Grace, but it was about Brian Stevenson. And I remember finishing the movie and just wondering, who's he married to? I wonder what his wife's like. And then just kind of seeing that he's not married. It was just like, wow, this man has devoted so much of his life's work to helping incarcerated people. And it's just powerful to kind of think about people like him that are single. And then we go on to Michael B. Jordan. I mean, he might be dating somebody, but he's single. And for an actor, I have one of my really close friends, Chloe, is an actress. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of focus. And so you have to sacrifice some things to kind of achieve them. And then Langston Hughes, some other people I found was Leonardo da Vinci, Beethoven, Coco Chanel. So the designer behind everybody's favorite Chanel's. I'm not particularly a fan, but she had a quote, and I'm going to read it because when I was looking at it, I found it. And she said, she declined somebody who asked to marry her. And her response was, "I never wanted to weigh more heavily on a man than a bird." So, I said, baby, okay, Chanel, okay, I see you.
Say that quote again.
You said, Coco Chanel. Everybody knows what Chanel is. "I never wanted to weigh more heavily on a man than a bird."
Okay.
Just gonna drop the mic there. So yeah, and then the first Black astronaut to space, Mae Jemison, she's single, and so it was awesome. Like, wow, like she was a first, and she was able to kind of achieve something that not a lot of people can say they could achieve. I have Venus and Serena, majority of their careers, they were single. We know Serena got married a couple years ago, but she was single for majority of her like growth process.
Yeah.
I have a asterisk next to Tyler Perry and Oprah. Tyler Perry was definitely single when he was homeless, going through all of that. He does have a longtime girlfriend and a child. Oprah, I don't know when her and Stedman met, but I'm pretty sure that before she became Oprah, she wasn't, while she was becoming Oprah, she wasn't with Stedman.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a little star next to them because it's kind of iffy whether or not somebody would classify them as single. And then as a Christian, I had to find some people within the Bible, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to start off with Naomi. She was a widow. Rahab was not married. Esther, there's a lot of sources that say Esther was not married. And then of course the disciples, God was like, "Come with me." And they're like, okay, they didn't go check their wife. When you read the scripture, they left their father, so it wasn't like, I need to go back to my wife, which is something that marriage would require. You kind of,
you got to check in with somebody. It's like, where you going? What you doing? When you going to be back?
Exactly. And then like, obviously my favorite, Jesus. And so that's why it's kind of fascinating to me, the emphasis that is put on marriage within the church, specifically within culture, because we see that like the role model for Christianity did not have a wife. Like he had to come in, get some stuff done. So I'm just saying, you can be one of these greats, right? And maybe that translates to you getting married on later in life, like Serena Williams. But yeah, singleness is a gift. All right. And so today I'm just going to really talk about just activating the gift and kind of like not sitting on it.
And I like that you say that, but talking about that and singleness, I was telling Tabitha a conversation I had with a good friend, Leah, and she's a blogger for financial literacy there, financial coach. But Leah mentioned something that she was going to share with her young people coming up, possibly to freeze their eggs if they wanted to have children later on so they can focus on their career. Yeah. So I thought that was such a great idea, because so often people say, oh, the reason what some women wanted to get married because if they wanted to have children. But again, nowadays, you don't necessarily have to get married to have children. And if you want to wait till later on to focus on your career, you can actually freeze your eggs and have them later on once you've accomplished all those things you want to accomplish. So we got options in this day and age.
There are options, and I'm sure people out there are like, oh, that's expensive. I like Leah's idea. I personally don't know how I feel about if I want kids or not, so I don't know if I will be freezing my eggs. But I do know that a lot of people will be like, oh, it's a lot of money. When you think about the investment you make in your schooling, when you think about a car, I mean, it's so, when you think about if you really want a family, it's an awesome sacrifice, or as far as financially, in my opinion, if that's really why you want to have kids, say that, yes.
Okay, Tariana said, yeah, Yana, you've been talking about freezing eggs as well. So she said somebody there.
Yes, yes.
On that. So that was good. And Sade said, I was single for a while as well. And your favorite cousin and mentor, I was able to change your perspective. You're welcome.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
she thinks you may change your expect your this. Okay, so we've talked about that. And so I was trying to remember some of the other conversations we've
Yes,
had on singleness
yes,
and your joy in it,
yes.
in the sense that you're not sitting around moping around thinking, oh, my phone isn't ringing, I don't, what's what. So what else do you get involved with then if you're not waiting for a man?
There is so much to do, trust and believe. And the phone still rings. Not, whether it be friends, like my Ayanas and my Tarianas, my friends, we call, we talk to one another late in the wee night hours, like you could a brother. Or a sister if you go that way. So, it is something that I do enjoy doing in my free time is definitely like being in the community. And so one of the gifts that I see within singleness is just a lot of freedom, right? And so people don't want to talk about it, but
I got
there's
shackles
a lot of
on.
freedom. There is freedom, and the amount of focus that you can use to achieve your goals, check things off, creativity is also a gift that I feel like singleness allows you to be really creative. Whether, like, I know I used to crochet, I'm trying to learn another language right now. And so you're able to kind of say, hey, I want to do this, and not kind of worry about whether or not you have to convince somebody else to want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's definitely integral to ministry as well. To me, I feel like I don't have to think about, oh my goodness, I can't go out to the pantry because I could come home and get somebody sick. I can get my husband or my kids sick. I can just go, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that exploring is also a gift within singleness, and having multiple interests. So I know you say, oh, we're not sitting around looking for a man. The beautiful thing about being single is that you can date and you can have multiple interests at one time without feeling any type of way, like feeling bad about it. It's like,
Cool.
I'm single. And so, a lot of times you get, people just want to latch on. And it's like, how about you just date, get to know yourself, get to know another person, and learn more about the world around you.
I like that because one of the things that I've always admired about all of my kids, and for those who don't know, she is one of my children, you guys have male friends. And I know growing up for me, they always made it sound like you couldn't have male friends because they would have to be your boyfriends. But you guys actually have male friends that you have rich communication with. And that is something that I never had or never cultivated because of the
Yeah.
stigma they gave you back in the day, oh, you're fast or something like that. So here you are, and you have such good male friends. I won't call out any of their names, but I love all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get carried away with some of your male friends, and I always laugh and say, yeah, don't let me become a widow. I might be a cougar. Can't believe I said that on
Oh my
TV.
goodness. Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up, because as I was kind of preparing, I, kind of asked one of my good friends who's about to get married, what does she believe the three things to living happily single, the keys were before, she's still single now, she's engaged. And we went over them with her, and then she asked me mine, and platonic relationships were definitely one of them. I think that having male people in your life outside of family members that are able to kind of give you a male's perspective, it might be unique to them, but also provide a sense of comfort and assurance. And so there's been many times I've called Tajay or Philander, those are like the people she didn't want to name, but my good guy friends, and learning like not to cross boundaries, right? And so I've been good friends with them for more than 8 years, and that's just what it's been, right? And I think that it has allowed me to grow. They push me, they get on me, they talk about me, especially Philander. That's just to name a few. So single women out there, find some really find some men out there that you're not looking at in a way of romantically being with. You're purely looking at with them to increase your skills within this time of singleness, to learn how some men think, to learn not to get caught up in like, oh, seeing things this way and having that other perspective. And so it's good because then when they date people, you kind of see how they navigate things, you see their perspective of women, and you kind of can get more understanding when it comes to men.
And I like that, because one of the things, I don't know if you remember this story, because again, we grew up, I remember one time when my girls went to a church basketball event, and there were kids from another church there. And keep in mind, Tabitha's best friend has been her best friend since middle school. It's been, I forget when you met Tajay, but I remember I've always encouraged my girls to go ahead and meet people, because that's not something that I was comfortable doing. But there were some children and from another church there, and you went over there to talk to the fellas because they were playing basketball and others. And one particular lady said something to you about, oh, you're being so fast. I don't know if you remember that conversation. And so I remember you came to me, whatever, and I go, darling, again, those are the labels that some of us from the old school gave, which are so wrong, because there you were with no intention, but they try to say, oh, because you're going to talk with boys, you're being fast and whatever. And sometimes I think for women, singlehood, they may not have been able to create platonic male relationships because they always, or someone in their head told them that, oh, they're being so fast, and so that you can't have a relationship with a man unless it's sexual. And that's not true.
Very unhealthy way of thought. I actually remember that now that you bring that up. And I remember kind of just feeling like, what? She don't know me. Like, that's not even, it wasn't even that, but the fact that I knew that, wow, there were other young ladies that heard that and believed it, right? Or felt like, oh my goodness, they're doing something wrong. But thankfully I had you and Poppy to kind of be like, okay. And so what happens is you're not teaching your young women to have social skills, right, with men. And so you're forcing them to see them only as Prince Charming. Right. And so when the wolves come in sheep clothing, they don't even know, because you haven't given them the tools to be able to communicate and learn about a person without any intent in mind. And so I think that, though, thankfully it didn't throw me off. And, I vividly remember that situation. I was like very young. I had to be maybe in 8th grade, 9th grade. And it was just so random. And it's just like, this was a single, I would say she was like in her 30s at the time, to late 20s lady. And I'm like, wow, mercy. I hope this train of thought isn't inhibiting you from getting with somebody, because you have that misconception, So,
Leah's like, my grandmother found out that one of my male friends took me out for her birthday brunch a couple of weeks ago and told me that my fiance should break up with her. So even now, people think that if you go talk with another male, that all of a sudden, you've committed infidelity. And I said, I don't understand that. When I hear women, I do watch foolish shows. So I watch Maury and I watch Divorce Court, and these girls keeping tabs on their guys, who they got on their Instagram or whatever, because I'm like, are we so threatened that we can't let our males have other friends who happen to be of the opposite sex?
Right. I'm glad you brought that up, because I know Ayana is listening, and she is that girl that like wants to, when a girl walks past with her significant other, she wants to be able to admire them with her guy friend or boyfriend. She's that type to be like, oh yeah, she cute. Oh, she got like, and so like from her, I've learned an appreciation for being like, yeah, don't hide it. Like, there's beautiful people in this world, and you should be so secure within your relationship with somebody that, so what if they like somebody's picture, or they might find somebody fond, if they're really acting as if they don't, you don't know what they might be doing behind closed doors.
Right.
So that made me think about Yana. So
Okay, because I said that's good. Charday says, that's good. Calling someone fast too early hinders girls from creating positive social skills with male outside of a sexual experience. So true. So true. Because it doesn't have to be all about sex.
It doesn't. And so I think that, it just doesn't have to be about sex. And so I'm thankful for the male friends I have in my life. And I'm thankful for understanding that, yes, somebody can show interest, but that doesn't mean it needs to translate into a relationship, a serious relationship. It could translate into a friendship, and being able to be okay with that. And so I think a lot of guys have it right. I was watching something, and the guy equates dating to data. So he just goes on dates to accumulate data.
So talking about that, Tabitha, tell her about the video you sent me with the guy with the dating and the budget. I know we're jumping.
Yes. Okay. So I don't know if anybody knows. I think his name is Anthony, but there was a video that is talking about him being dissed by a girl, we'll say, for being on a budget. And so he asked her out on a date. They went on a date, they had a good time. She texted him, I guess, a couple weeks later, a month later, and said, hey, can we go to this restaurant? And at first he was kind of like, he lives by a budget. And so he knew that, he looked at the restaurant, he knew that wouldn't fit into his budget. And so he told her, we can't go this weekend because it's not within my budget, but we can go next month because it is within my budget. And she never responded to him and just kind of ghosted him. So yeah, I know there's probably different viewpoints on it. I honestly respected that. I was like, what is better than a man who knows how to live on a budget? But that's me, right? And so I know that via text, things can be misinterpreted. Who knows if she
the rest of the story for that. So what happened next in the video? What he said that when he was on a show now?
Oh yeah. So later on he was on a don't be this female. Later on he was on like a national television show promoting his like business, and she texted him, and he didn't respond to her. So it was just yeah.
Because again, sometimes two women out there who you're looking for something, sometimes you're looking for something in a particular package and you're missing the gem right in front of you. So that's a whole different discussion that I may have with someone else, so that you guys could understand that package that she missed out on because she jumped to a conclusion that was false, and she had some unrealistic expectations, and she dissed a good man. But again, that was a good sign for him. He found out early. Again, right? Boop, this was the wrong woman for me. So,
and I think that his story is kind of like being within debt and then kind of getting out. So he's very focused on like making sure he sticks to his budget. And so, and something that I pulled from that experience is like, single women right now, you need to figure out what your budget is, right? Like, what are the things that you really know you want in a partner or you want out of a relationship? And so that when something happens that is without that, you're able to say, this doesn't fit within my budget, right? And it's not something personal. It's just realizing that this is a clear sign that this isn't going to work. So that's probably one of the best things you can do within your time if you do plan on getting married, is creating a list budget. And I'm not talking about, he needs to be tall or he has to be, make this much money. I'm talking about like core values and things that you would want within a partner. And so that is something that, and so another gift.
But before you go on, because Sade said, yes, that 80-20 rule is real. And Leah says Anthony O'Neill. Is it Anthony O'Neill?
Thank you, Leah.
That is his last name, yes. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so also on Anthony O'Neill, since we're on him, he was in a relationship for, I want to say, longer than 4 to 5, 8 years, whatever. He was in a long relationship with this person. He got engaged. And he realized that the only reason he was getting engaged was because of the pressure of being together so long, and people felt like, you should be married by now. They're not together. They ended up not getting married. And so be aware of that, right? Knowing your mind, guys they know when they're, they want somebody. So really, it's hard because I don't know the young woman's history or whatever, but what he did say was she kept pressing it. Like she kept saying, when are you gonna propose? When are you gonna propose? And so he just felt like, oh my goodness, I need to propose. So be mindful of that, women, young ladies, and women who are interested in being courted, is don't cause so much noise that somebody just ends up making a decision because of whatever you're telling them to do rather than what they really want to do.
Okay.
Too early on.
All right, thank you. So what's the next tip you were going to share?
So something else that is like one of the gifts that's within singleness is maturity. And I'm going to put that like in brackets, but the soft and hard skills that you learn as a single. And so perfect example, last week I was driving and I just was in a funk. Like, I don't know where it came from. I was just in a funk. And I remember thinking to myself, if you were talking to a guy right now, he was in the car with you, you would be in this funk and it would kind of like probably spread like wildfire and you just end up blaming him, I'm sure. So you need to figure out right now how you going to check these emotions? How are you going to check your emotions, get out of your funk for yourself about somebody getting you out? And so that skill is going to help you, obviously, if you plan on getting married. So not make it so that you're putting all that pressure of somebody making you happy or fulfilling you. And draining them because it's not something that they're really capable of doing, but you're learning how to do it on your own. And so taking advantage, I mean, if you're, single, and you're like, oh my goodness, learn how to cook, do things that, you feel like you want to be able to do if you have a family, sharpen those soft skills, those hard skills, your communication skills. Learn how to be a really good friend. Like, I have friends that, we have really tough conversations, like, oh, I don't like when you did this. And learn how to take criticism, right? And not be like so consumed or angry about it that you can't forgive. So that's something that is a gift.
And I like what you said that. And Leah says, I know him. And Robin says, Anthony O'Neill is now my hero. So that is good. And Rebecca says, deep must have in regard to core value, when you said that core value thing. Because the other thing too, when you talk about maturing or doing those hard and soft skills, because I remember one of the times when we had a conversation and you were hurt by a friendship that had ended years ago because you didn't have the maturity skills to handle it then. And you were sorry that you had lost that friendship. But now being more conscious in even cultivating some new and deeper relationships with people now. So you're saying one of the gifts of living single is being able to have all that self-reflection time and improve?
Yes. Self-reflection time, improving. I mean, you're mastering self, right? So this is your time. You have no excuse. You don't have anybody holding you back. And I don't want people to believe that a spouse is going to hold you back. But I want you to think in your mind what people who are married say they wish they would have done, right? And so that's travel. A lot of them are like, I work PTO. I can't imagine trying to make sure my PTO and their PTO is approved and we get to go somewhere. Like, I don't got to worry about that. I put in my days and I can go. So take advantage of the things that you might not be able to do as readily within marriage, right? And so I think it's so important. And understanding the why you want to get married is so important. And so
I know why.
Because I'm going to put my mom on blast real quick. Carla, your coach. Poppy, forgive me. So, understanding your why. My mother got married, and she can verify this. She got married because she wanted to have sex. Back in the day, according to her, and I guess other people in that generation, they thought the Lord was going to strike you down. And this is not me promoting sex, even though I'm team have sex when it's time. But my mother, with that desire, with that why, it translated to so much frustration within her marriage, right? And so really understanding your why and making it like, and giving yourself the worst case scenario. So worst case scenario, you really want to have kids within marriage. Well, not worse. I put worse in character building, the most character building. We won't say worst case scenario. You want to have kids. I really want to get married and have kids. What if you can't have kids? What skills are you giving yourself right now to be able to cope and work through not getting what you want?
Oh, that's good.
You can't see your companionship, right? I know a lot of people say cuddling. I want to be able to have somebody to cuddle with me. That's all fine and dandy, but a lot of couples sleep on the opposite side of the bed, right? They're like, oh, it's hot. And so we'll get into a little bit later some tips I have for if you do are like, oh, I want to get married, and I'm gonna give you some tips on what you should be doing right now. But it gets hot, it's sweaty, people don't. So understanding your why is probably the most important thing. Why am I so fixated on being in a relationship? Why?
No, but I just gotta pause and breathe a minute, inhale, because you hit some stuff on the nail, darling. Because you always telling me too much of my business, but we've gone there. And so I think that's a point that everyone needs to marinate on. Know your why. Yeah. And when you've made up the good point of, if that is your why, what happens when you don't get that in the marriage?
Yeah.
what happens, so you wonder. So you really do have to be conscious about that, because your why could be that, and then you end up with celibacy. Your why can be wanting children but then being barren, him not being able to have children. Your why could be, like you said, cuddling, and then that doesn't happen. So that is so true, darling.
So we are learning from the generations before us, and so definitely if sex is, okay, and so I'm gonna make something practical. Let's say, you're like, oh my goodness, that's something I will enjoy doing when I'm married. Fine and dandy. Still building the self-control now when your husband goes on trips or when he's out of town, or building that self-control, right, is gonna help you drastically. And it should be something that the significant other that you want to be with also is building that self-control within singleness, right? So that it doesn't translate into just you being like, I don't know how to contain this, and so knowing your why.
Okay, somebody has a question. I don't know if I'm saying your first name correct. Ruben Jamal. He says,
that's RJL.
Who is it?
RJL. Go ahead.
RJL. Okay. The question is, what have you learned about yourself being single? I think that's what he's trying to ask. Or her. Is it a him or a her?
Her.
Her.
Him.
I can't see the picture.
Rubens,
but okay.
Rubens. But yeah, what have I learned?
Yes. What have you learned about yourself being single?
Yeah, about myself. You want to know about me? I've learned that I'm my most productive when I'm alone. And I don't necessarily think that is to say that I can't be this productive with somebody, but I think that the relationships that I have been in, I got so comfortable that I was not as productive as I feel like I should have been. And so I think that's what I've learned most. I'm most productive, I'm most creative when that's what I've learned in I guess to answer your question, Ruben, I am a very creative person. That's what I've learned. Best thing I've learned. So yeah, I hope that answers this question.
That's right. Okay, all right. So go on to your list and stuff. Since we've covered about knowing the why, and I'm saying that was deep. I'm going to steal that and use it.
And so I'm thankful. I think that marriage is a beautiful thing, but I think a lot of people don't realize how much marriage is a sacrifice. And so because of how open, my parents have been with their marriage and just what I've seen, it's fantasized on the media, on things within fairy tales, like this idea, but it is sacrifice. And so also to answer Ruben's question is, I think that, people forget how much of a sacrifice it is. And so an analogy, it's not the best analogy, but analogy I came up with was, so I know somebody that's like an investment banker, and it's a very stressful job. Like you're up early in the morning, late at night, like it's stressful. And it's like, but it's a great job, do well, you make a good living. But you have somebody who's like just finished college, we'll say, and they have like 7 months, and all they're thinking about is, I can't wait till I can be working all day, every day, and, working that 9 to 5. And it's just like, nobody would do that, right? You would really bask in the freedom you have until, you're like, okay, I gotta focus, I gotta do this. And so that's my position on marriage. Like marriage is like that investment banking job. Like it's a lot of work, it's a lot of sacrifice, and really making sure you're doing the things right now and being present so that you can be the best partner to somebody, whether that's a friendship, whether that's marriage, whether that's a mentor, really just learning how to like be like ready to sacrifice. And so with that analogy, I don't know if I was so surprised when I found this out, but an octopus lives its whole life by itself, right? And they're very intelligent. Octopus. I don't know how to make it plural. But
I know the plural. Octopi
is so intelligent. And there's all these studies on octopus. But something that I found that was interesting last week while I was watching the Animal Planet or whatever I was watching, is that when they give birth, they die. Like after they give birth, they die. And it's like, wow. And this is the males too. So when the male plant, you know, when they have their whatever intercourse or whatever, he has 2 or 3 months and then he dies. All of her eggs have hatched, she dies. And so I am not saying you are dying to self when you get married. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it there. But I wanted to look at it. There's life. There's life in it, right? Think about all the little babies that are coming into the world, but they're going to be on their own, right? They're going to go through the same life cycle as their parents. But seeing, you know, really realizing that, you know, I need to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now, present, because once I make that decision, I'm all in. It's a whole. I'm sacrificing so many things because of the beauty of whatever
somebody else.
Yes.
Oh, good. And your Tia Laverne said it is octopuses is the plural. She knows it. So you make a valid point. O'Brien says, "Oh, these are some rather dark analogies," and you have a laughing face. Rebecca says you're a dying.
The light is the babies, right? So the octopus lived a very wonderful life. Was intelligent.
You're right. It lived to die for the babies, and you're saying you don't need to die.
Not yet. When it's your time, it's your time, and there's so much beauty in that. But don't be so fixated on, I need to go and make these babies. Like, be present. Be present. And so
you don't have to rush to die.
Yes. And so I think that with that analogy, something that I would encourage anybody who's like, you know what, I'm tired of being single. And I do not equate you being tired of being single to you not being happy and content. You can well so be tired of being single and really want to go into the next phase of your life. But something I would just recommend that you do is make a list of everything you're ready to sacrifice.
Ooh.
Make a list. I'm ready to sacrifice my money, my sleep, my desires, my immediate needs. Make a list, right? Make it real to you. And if you're in that boat and you're like, I'm not ready to sacrifice, put yourself in the community so you're doing things with selfless service. So you're increasing that muscle of doing things without the intent of expecting something in return, because that is going to be so beneficial to your marriage, right? And so really maximizing. And so, yeah, I am a product of marriage. I cannot, it's a beautiful thing, right? And so I think that's where I'm really torn. And I remember talking to my mom last week. I'm like, man, thanks to you guys, you know, I can feel family and my grandparents, like, because people sacrifice. And that's the difference that we're seeing with this generation and the generations before. It's not that it was easier back then. They knew it was a sacrifice. They knew. They knew it, and they knew, hey, we're going to stick in this thing. And so it's like, you know, understanding that and really maximizing your full potential within the season, if it's a season. And yeah.
But I think what you said is so important. And even somebody in the comment, Laverne said, make a list of all the things you're willing to sacrifice. That is so good. So I really need all the single people out there to do it. Because again, women in my generation, we weren't sitting down and thinking about what we sacrificed. As Tabitha said, in our generation, it was a little bit different. Sometimes you weren't getting married. So just to get out of your parents' house, you got married. So you never had any time to be on your own, to develop yourself as a person. And so therefore, you weren't happy. Things happened in your marriage. So you just did it as an escape from one type of bondage or hell. I don't know. But just to say, okay, this was the next step. You wanted to get out of your parents' home. You know, take it in whatever light you want, people, whatever. If you're my age and older, you tell me why it was you got married, to get out, whatever, you know, you wanted to get on your own, whatever. Yeah. But now no one ever told us about the sacrifices that you would have to make. But again, back in my day, it was like, oh, you got married, or you're old maid, or something's wrong with you if you didn't get married. So right. It was like you were a pariah. It was just like, what's wrong with you? Why are you not getting married? You right. know, you must be funny or something, you know, right. Something must be wrong with you.
Yeah, something must
be. The discussion now is not that, because I always learn from my girls. I continue to learn gems from them, but that's one of the reasons why it wasn't pushing it for any quick time. But I never thought of, when you said this, list all the things you're willing to sacrifice,
Yeah.
because marriage is about
It's
sacrificing.
about sacrifice. And it takes a happily single woman. Okay, this is what I will say. The learning curve, that's the main difference. So my mom's still within her marriage right now. She had a larger learning curve because she didn't do these things. And so to make it a smoother transition into your marriage, doing these things can add so much value and peace of mind within your marriage, right? And so, it's not necessarily like, it's not like a equation, like you do this and then you're happy married. No, you cannot do this, but then once you're in the marriage, you're going to have to figure it out, or you're going to, chuck the deuces. And something that I was talking about with my older sister, Rebecca, was this idea, because I kind of asked her, like, who are people that you think have a good marriage that and she shared them with me. But there was a time back in the day where women couldn't do anything without a man. You couldn't. You didn't even have rights to vote. So you had to be with a man to make sure you were safe, to make sure that there was a sense of, so it was your job to push the babies out and do that, right? The people before us have created a way for women not to feel like, I need to do this right away. Still a beautiful thing, but there was a time where you had it. It was part of life. Get married. You know what I'm saying? I think about I forget her name, but she was the second Supreme Court judge who who I'm talking about, mommy? Her husband just passed away. She's one of the Supreme Court judges, and anyways.
I just know Ginsburg. Is that the one? That's not the one. That's not
second, right? She's still there, right? No?
Right. Ruth Bader. Not that one. You need another one.
Her husband was a lawyer as well. Her husband was a lawyer.
I think so.
Yeah. Anyways, when she just talks about when she was at Harvard Law and the dean telling her and the other women to stand up and tell why they've taken a man's seat. That was the culture, right? So you like, what you doing here? So we're not there yet. We're not in that place. And so really maximizing the things that you can do within the singleness to really be fruitful and multiply, right? In other ways outside of like having kids. And so, that would be my main.
Okay, great. Also
one more thing before you say that is also with the sacrifice, something else for like people who are like within the singleness are like, oh my goodness, I really want to be married. What are some things that your ex or a guy that you've dated said that you need to work on? There was a time where you kind of were like, I don't know, y'all, you just talk, I don't know. But no, really look at those things. Really say, hey, do I have that problem? Like self-check, regulate, like, can I do better at this?
Are you willing to share anything that was pointed out to you but from an ex? One thing I'm going to say, and it wasn't pointed out, but I know when you dated fellas, you made sure they knew how to cook, because one of the things you've always said was you wanted a man to cook like your uncles cooked for their wives. And so to me, that was one of the things that you did. But what I see that you've done within the past few months is you're actually learning how to cook now that so you won't necessarily have to rely on.
Yes. Cooking, I can't say it's enjoyable, but it's good to be able to cook for yourself. There's joy in that. I think something that I know that works. I think that I can be very like, like get it done, and I think that sometimes I just need to like relax, and I feel like I'm very driven, and I think that sometimes I can translate to somebody who isn't as driven, not to say that's a bad thing, as a beating upside their head, right? And so I think I have learned to kind of wait until somebody asks me for their advice and just listen instead of being like, you need to do X, Y, and Z, just like, oh, okay. But I just wait, like, do you want to know? I don't even try to say to you. I just wait, just listen. That's what I was saying, be a better listener.
And then just to show you guys how honest we are in our relationship, one time when you brought a friend home, a guy you were dating, didn't I have a conversation with the guy and tell him I wouldn't put up with you if I was him?
This is 6-7 years ago, guys.
Right. Because they were still growing to do, like you said, that soft maturity and whatever.
Right.
But when they did, and I know other parents will look a little funny, but I remember saying, because yes, that characteristic that she just mentioned about do it, do it, do it. And I'm just like, girl, not all men can handle. And that's the beautiful thing too, in your singleness, finding someone who can handle that beautiful thing about you, because that is you. True, you may have to have some areas to grow and just mature it out, but you are a go-getter. You are someone who has creative juices. So if you don't have a partner in your life who's helping that to grow instead of suck it out, then you definitely know that's not the person for you, because that person in your life should add so you could still be creative and not be the one that's draining. Is like, oh, I don't even feel like any creative juices. And I think that's something else that people need to think about when they are thinking, if they want to find a person, someone who's going to continue that your giftings going. But if it's not, then you really need to ask yourself, do you need to be with this person if your talents and gifts won't continue to grow and build, or if you're going to stifle them because they are insecure with that. Because I know you had a conversation with an aunt who said that her partner, one of the things she realized is that, right, he was strong with his gifting, even though she had some strong giftings herself.
Yeah.
And so that's important.
Yes, that is very important. And then I guess if you're like, hey Tab, I'm ready to make that list. I'm ready to sacrifice. I can't wait to, and you have your why and it makes sense to you. Um, you know, explore, don't limit your palette. And I mean, I know I still probably do see myself, if I get married, if I decide to transition into wanting to get married, with a brother. Like I'm like, yo, I want to live on a black brother, especially with all this stuff. I want to live on a black brother. But the most till I'm 27, the date that I had, and it was recently, the date in which I felt the most connected and shared so many values with was somebody that didn't share my race. And I was completely shocked by the fact that, wow, like there's so much more out there, right? And so put yourself out there, go to places where you can just meet new people, right? That should be the purpose, to meet new people. The purpose shouldn't be, I'm gotta go get a man, right? Because it's gonna blind you. It's gonna make it so that you look for the wrong things. Let me see if this person is a good friend, right? Mm-hmm. And then we can move our way from there. Maybe we might transition out of friendship, or maybe he has a friend, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's some tools. There's somebody who, and I have my mother share them, but if you're ready to kind of, hey, launch and kind of be, I want to get out there. There is somebody who created this website or Instagram for, it's called Slide in My DMs. And if anybody doesn't know what a DM is, it's a direct message. And so basically they just post singles and you put your name and it gives, you just put a picture up and they put on their site with more than 300,000 people or whatever over the country. And you're giving people the opportunity to kind of slide in and say, hey, and in the same way they do male and females. So why not, right?
But what's the one that you told me that was like not in the club one? What was that one?
Yeah, she's created that as well. I don't want to butcher her name, but yeah, she did I Don't Do Clubs. And so she posts events and different things for Black professionals to meet and get to know one another. Mm-hmm. I don't want to have to go to a club. So yeah, that's also something that is good.
So, because again, I like when you're saying you don't have to be going to clubs. Everything doesn't have to be a booty call, but you can actually meet people of the opposite sex and find commonality, common interests. Because if you decide to transition into marriage, finding and marrying someone who may have similar interests. Because again, back in the day when they got married right out of high school or married right in high school, depending on where you're from, or even right out of college, you still haven't cultivated what your interests are. And so you haven't even learned and explored. But this way, by you doing that, you can definitely meet somebody and be willing to try new things. That's one of the things that you're doing. I like your hobby that you're doing. Tell them what you're doing. The fencing. She can't remember.
Oh, okay. Yes, I did. Right. I did join a fencing group and I met, and that was good. Just starting new hobbies and you'll meet people. But yeah, just kind of, like I said, get out there, do things that you won't have the freedom to do later or as, As
So
easy.
right. We're not sitting around twiddling our thumbs, but if you want to sit around, you still can,
Right,
because
right.
you have that all to yourself. Nobody telling you to move out, do this or whatever. So, okay, Tabitha, I know we're going to have to be winding down. I know you had some tips and other things. Anything that we failed to cover on your list, your check
Um,
sheet that we wanted to share with our audience?
Well, I guess I just kind of want to go back over like the gifts within singleness, the gift that keeps giving. So that kind of resonated with me because you're not only giving yourself more soft and hard skills to just be a better person for the world and have major impact, but you're also um, giving like a gift to if you have a potential partner as well by doing these things for yourself and being the best you can be right now. And so I think, it's so important to remember that it's a gift of adaptability, change. You can, a gift of ministry, a gift where you can kind of figure out what your mission is and, find people like with that like-mindedness, a gift of maturity, a gift of exploring, the gift of dating, right? And so realizing that just because you go on a date with somebody, just because somebody says you're attractive, don't compute that as, oh, he want to marry me, right? So I have some friends where it's like somebody will give them attention and it's like, just get to know them, right? Why do you have to jump to, oh, are we going to get married? Oh, this and oh, that. And then also don't, shifting gears a little bit, like don't discount people. So I had a friend who said she didn't want to marry somebody with kids. And so she was on a dating app and he had kid. And I said, well, why don't you want to marry somebody with a kid? Like, let's really dig in deep. What is it? And I kept asking her questions, like probing questions. And I said, it's not that you don't want a kid. You don't want to raise a kid. So if he had a kid that was like 15, 17, 18, 15 in that age group, you wouldn't feel this way. It's because the kid is under that age and you don't want to in any way be a mother figure right now. And that's respectable, right? But just off the pure basis of I don't want anybody with a kid. It's like if he's a good father, those are some good signs to something. I mean, one of my favorite YouTubers is Maisley. And I'm telling you, they have so many kids. She came with 4 kids now, and then they've had 3 or 4. And so I'm like, he married somebody with 4 kids, but they have such a beautiful family. And like,
And it's an interracial family, isn't
yes,
it?
yes, she's from Baltimore and he's Korean, and they do so well at making sure their kids grow up with appreciation for Blackness and Korean. So, and Korea. So yeah, like really, there's so much out there.
And because one other thing I wanted to talk about too, that we talked about in just life, and I think for singleness, and you, one of the things that you could give as the gift of singleness is to be well-rounded, because we've talked about sometimes some people just being one tone.
Right.
And by traveling, by doing your other things, by meeting people, even people outside of your race, especially during this time when it is so tense. But if you start mixing and mingling and building relationships, meaningful relationships, that's one way to definitely combat this thing. So you can have a dialogue with a true friend who's outside the race to say, hey guys, can you speak to your people and see this? Because you may need to have someone to translate it to them in their own language, because they're not able to understand us. But I like that, in that the journey of the singleness is beginning to be more than one tone. And sometimes we just speak with just one voice, one experience. And because of that, it's tainted.
Yeah.
Instead of getting a well-rounded one.
Yeah. So don't, singles, especially like there's like this story that I think is so powerful. And for any widows out there or divorcees or even like us single women, I just found out that, I don't know, I'm kind of late, but Kirk Franklin, he was raised by a widow. His parents abandoned him when he was 4, and that is who helped him take his piano lessons and was so instrumental in him feeling love. And I think it's, so important that, that widow, that older, she was like in her 60s, mind you, she was a little bit older. And so she could have just been like, this isn't my responsibility. But instead she decided, she chose to give, right? And because of her giving, we got the gift of Kirk Franklin. And so I thought it was just so, be a Gertrude. Her name is Gertrude. Regardless of what season you are in life right now, there's people that need your love. There's people that need your companionship. And so really maximizing it so that you're able to be the best you can possibly be for you, for God, if you want to get married, for your mate, but truly reminding yourself that it's a gift. Like marriage is a gift, the same way singleness is a gift. And don't let anybody tell you differently. You know, find those single women who are happy to be single, right? Be able to be there in the gap for those single friends who aren't happy, right? And to validate their feelings and get them through, help them see their worth beyond somebody being with them. And so, yeah, I think that has been, yeah.
Oh,
I don't think there's anything else. I think I hit everything
you hit everything on your list, because I am so grateful that you chose to allow me to share some of our conversation with the world, with my social media platform. But I just really thought it was good, because I think for many women, they don't have a healthy outlook for that. And I think in this day and age, that sometimes when they sexualize us or whatever, for us now as women to get that out of it and say we can have platonic male friends. We can get a friend with a male and do that, and do so many things now as our singleness. So I thank you for being transparent with us and sharing.
Yes, you guys are a gift. Everybody watching this, you're a gift, whether you're about to get married, or you're single, you know, just really be present with whatever that is. And, you know, that's really going to help you not get so caught up in becoming the investment banker, right? It's a good thing, but really take advantage of whatever you have going on right now, you know? So yeah, that's it. No more questions, Mother.
Okay, no, I don't see any more questions on there. Don is like, y'all, y'all need to do something with this. This is fire. Becca, keep it real. You've come a long way, Tabitha.
Yeah, there's also a speech. There's a little bit of cursing in it. Tracy Ellis did a speech at Glamour, I want to say a couple years ago, and she hit the nail on the head for especially single Black women. She's so accomplished. She's so, you know, such a powerful force. And she was just really coming at this idea, why aren't you married yet? She's like, I have a little excerpt from what she said. She said, I'm reminded that I have failed on the marriage and carriage counts. This bold, liberated, independent woman. I mean, I help the needy. I show up on time for my job. I'm a good friend. I'm a solid daughter, a hard worker. My credit is good. I take out the garbage before it gets messy. I create. And on top of that, I'm a global awards winner. I'm killing it. So why do I get snagged this way? So it's really, you know, it's a hopefully can turn into a movement where we can just kind of dispel this idea that while you are single, you can't live a fulfilling life. You know, we do a disservice to our widows. We do a disservice to our divorcees when we have this idea that you need to be married, right? We need to really hone in on just basking in whatever you can give and do in that, you know, and don't let it define you.
Because before you go, when we were talking about, I like when you said your why and know what you're sacrificing, because like you said, the astronauts, and you know, you guys have a lady who finally got into the Senate there, and others who she didn't get married till later in life. I think you told me that one. And so understanding that there's no right time or right age.
Ayanna Presley.
There's no right age or right time to get married. You know, if you get married at 70 and it's happily, hey, what better than if you got married at 20 and were miserable for 50 of those? You know, but if it's meant to be for your singleness, to understand that it is a gift and that you don't have to be ashamed of it. But keep in mind, somebody else may not appreciate that gift, and that's okay. They may have a whole different warped sense of normal, and just understand that that is where they are. That's where they're stuck, and you don't have to be the one to unstick them. Let them stay stuck. You know, let them call AAA. You know, you don't have to change their tire. Let them, you know what I'm saying? So let them be stuck. You don't have to convince someone else about that. But when you get the question from pastors or parents or others, when you could give me grandbabies, when you could do such and such, you know, just have your answer ready. So what's your answer if I ask you, when I'm gonna give a grandbaby?
Oh my goodness, what is my answer?
It's just like, oh, that just scares me, even to think of her, you as a mother. No,
me too. I make a great aunt.
Right. You're an excellent auntie. And I like how You take that time to build
Yes.
that relationship because
Yes.
you can,
Yes.
and you
I
choose
think
to.
I think the good answer that I will let them know is I'm just basking in my gift of singleness right now. I'll let you know when I'm transitioning into wanting that gift of marriage.
Oh, and it's so funny when you say transitioning, because some people use that word transitioning from life to death. So when you say, I'm transitioning, when I'm ready to transition.
For whoever was up in them comments, like, woo, this is so. Imagine how y'all have made us feel all these years being single. Okay, you can take one octopus analogy. I don't want to hear it. We get a single, divorced, you name it, widow. Y'all just be up in there like, oh, every sermon is about your husband and your kids, and or how to get a mate. And I'm like, oh my goodness. How about you tell me to be like Jesus? Because last time I checked, he wasn't laying next to Cynthia having her cuddle him before he went out and fed 5,000. I'm about that feeding 5,000. You know what I'm saying? So y'all can be that Adam and Eve. Y'all can make some canes.
Now give me a minute.
No, we gotta get off of this because me and Carla gonna cut up.
I know. We may get, we don't even drink, but we could get really, really a little bit much, but we won't do that to the public. This is going to stay rated PG. We've already crossed some boundaries, so it may not be PG, but we are good with that. But yes, there are no more questions. Ayana said, I'd rather be happy by myself than miserable with someone else. Ruben
Please
says,
put also in there, please put in what gift you feel like singleness has given you. What gift? So go ahead and put that in the comments,
Okay, put that in the comments and I'll read them off if you put what gift singleness has given you.
Yes.
Good job. Tariana says, auntie status all day. Leah, great convo. Thanks for this. Sonia, singleness is a gift. Leah said, I want to try fencing. Yes. Okay, I won't scroll back up anymore. But yes, Carmen says, I'm good on that grandbaby thing. It's like, right.
Thank you, Tia.
Oh, mercy.
I love marriages. I mean, I'm so thankful for my uncles, my aunts, my parents, my grandparents, for sticking in there, right? Because I have benefited so much from marriage, right? And I think being a part of a loving family does make it hard when I'm like, oh, I don't think I want no kids. I don't know about this marriage thing. But I'm in the best situation because I got a family, right? I got people. So if you're single or you trying to figure out how to get plugged in, go be that honorary family member. There's a family out there that's like, we just want somebody that's going to come over and they're going to, I have that here in Boston. There's people here that have embraced me as their own. Don't feel like, oh, I need to, do something or I don't have it. There's somebody out there that wants to love on you. I guarantee you it.
Okay, we've gotten some replies. Tariana said her gift is introspection.
Yes, I love that. Nice.
Sonia says gift of peace.
Yes.
Rebecca says a gift of finding my voice.
Ooh.
And Leah says career development.
Yes. Yeah. Leah. Oh my goodness. The when I think it's just like, ooh. And even my mom, even you, mommy, it's like, my dad would not have a chance with you today. That's all I'm gonna say. He wouldn't, and God had favor on you when you married him, and he had favor on my dad when y'all got together. But you've blossomed. And if there is a widow out there who wants to, remarry, remember that the package of who your new partner might be completely different. Mm-hmm. Racially, culturally, than what you were used to. But you're a new woman now. You're new. You're new. Mm-hmm. And so embrace that newity and welcome it. Don't think, oh my goodness, like my life, he used to talk all the time. I wasn't used to. Don't get caught up in all that. Gravitate towards the love and the energy, and you'll be surprised.
Yeah.
I love those gifts, guys.
Okay, and Ayana said freedom to be myself without having to conform in order to make someone else comfortable.
Mercy. Come on now.
Yeah.
I was dropping that stuff. Thank you,
Yeah,
everybody, for
yeah.
doing those
Thank
books.
you guys for interacting with us and doing that. We're going to be wrapping up, but next week, my conversation with Carla is going to actually be with another family member. Her name is Carmen. And we're going to be talking about, yeah, we're going to be talking about living with a chronic illness. So
Rufus! Woo!
yeah, so if you know someone who may be struggling with an illness or different other things, but it's going to be a good conversation. My family, we've all learned to come outside of our comfort zone. I brought them along with me as I came outside of my comfort zone, but I told each one of them eventually they will be on Conversations with Carla.
Your Carmen gonna come with it. She's a BOSS.
Yes, she is.
I credit a lot of my successes to her. So y'all better be on that call because it
Yeah,
wasn't my
yeah.
mother's parenting.
And that's a come with the gift of singleness, as she says, your family or others, because you've had people. One of the things that I prayed for my girls was, God, put women in their life to make up for my slack, because I knew there were so many areas in my life that I just didn't have, and I needed to make sure that there were women there. And the reason I prayed that, because I still remember as a child, I saw my mother helping another, it happened to be a female relative, the child, and the child was happy and went and told their mom, oh yes, Auntie Carolyn did such and such to me. And the mom immediate response was, well, why you didn't share that with me first? And you just see it drained from the child's face, because instead of the mom being happy that someone else was there to pour into it, you just suck that. And that relationship never blossomed anymore between my mom with that particular child. And I remember seeing that as like, oh, what a loss. And I knew that I wouldn't be selfish like that and think that, oh, if my girls had their first whatever, that if they didn't share it with me, that I would be upset. I said I wanted women. And that's happened with each of my girls. They've been given women in their lives who fed into them. And that is what I'm grateful for. And that's what you can do, even though you're not a part of a family. You can pour into someone else's life that's so meaningful and enrich it. And that's what Carmen and others did, because they laugh at me because I didn't believe in ironing. Carmen and her husband, when they stayed with them in the summer, they had to learn to iron. So,
and to put on lotion. We didn't put on lotion in the
right. And we didn't put on lotion. I didn't believe in putting on lotion. It was just one of them things. But I was the Tia that they came to for other interesting questions and conversations. So we each had our strengths, and it was okay that it happened. So every now and then with the butt of the joke, is that iron? No. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in for Conversations with Carla. If you ever need any dental care, let me know. If you're up in the Boston area, definitely do. But do you want to do any plugins for people with personal hygiene for right now? Dental
no.
hygiene?
This was directed.
Strictly this. But okay, my name is Carla. I'm your relationship doula, helping women before and after marriage and men bravely birth peace in their pieces of their lives. And we're signing out now, guys. So thank you. And you guys have a good week and stay safe.